بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome everyone with the first session of the Q&A, the You Ask and We Answer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this blessed month to accept your fast, accept your qiyam and your good deeds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to do as much as we can. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins. Okay, I will start with I have a number of questions, about 6 questions that we received them. So I'll start with a question that we receive, and then for those who are attending, you can say your questions. So one from here, one from there if you have questions. The first question I have here, this person, this lady says that we inherited, me and my siblings, we inherited lots of wealth from our parents. We inherited properties, cash and jewelries. She says here, however, my father and my mother, they used to take and get interest from their money or their account, and they have some amount of the money which is not halal in this wealth. So what is the ruling of the inheritance? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So with this question, so the person who is inheriting there are 3 situations here. The person knows, like this lady, knows that that money was left over by her father or mother, the money, the wealth of her parents. Either is all of it is haram, or has some amount of haram, or there is something there which is not haram. And the second case where the person doesn't know anything about that money. So either you know, like this lady, or you don't know anything about it, you inherit and you take it, or the situation that the person is not sure about it, there is a doubt but not sure. Starting with the situation, I'm trying to go expanding more than what the question says, I think for our benefit as well. So the situation where a person is not aware of any haram in the money that left by the parents, in this situation there is no issue at all. First, because overall, because the person doesn't know anything, he doesn't know that there is haram in there. So the money, absolutely all of it is halal for the person. And when there is doubt, it doesn't change anything in here. So the situation of the doubt will be considered and will be treated as the first situation that I mentioned now. So both situations are halal for her. The third situation, which the situation of this question that she said, so we are aware that there is a sort of haram in that money, and she was indicating to the interest. In this situation, the majority of the ulama from all the madhahib, they're saying the person should not inherit that haram if you know that there is haram. So certain amount of haram that your father took money, let's say £100,000 from a person, and then after a month died. So that £100,000 should be given back to that person. And what is left over, that you can divide it between you and your siblings. But you can't take that money and will be absolutely for you halal, and you're saying it is what is left by my father or my mother. So you can't do that. If the money the amount of the haram was known to the children or to the siblings who are going to inherit the money, the wealth, then they should give it back. If it was not known, the amount of it, in situation like interest, and you lost the count and you don't have a specific amount for that. So some ulama is saying that you can give a charity on behalf, you give a charity as to from that money that you inherit, give out some money to get out that interest, which was, you need to make estimation here, so estimate how much is the money and give it out, and the rest will be for you. So the conclusion of this, if the money was known to the person, how much there, that money, that wealth, whatever, if it was something cash, it was jewelry, it was land, it was a car, it was anything that can be inherited by inheritors. So then we'll be giving out, and if you know the person who's been taking from, then because haram, then you give it back directly to them. If you don't know, then you give it as a sadaqah, as a charity, and you're not expecting a reward for that, but you're giving a charity because it's not your money. And the rest will be halal for the rest of the children who are inheriting that wealth. And this is the first question that we receive, and Allah knows best. So is there any question from those who are attending? Otherwise I'll go to my other questions.
Sure, I just have one, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to know, because when you say Tarawih, it's Qiyamul Layl anyway, so should we, or can we say Tahajjud as well? Tahajjud prayers?
Sorry, you said the start of the question, didn't catch it. Can you say it again?
Sorry, I said if we say Tarawih prayers,
yeah,
and then we we awake at Tahajjud time, do we say Tahajjud again? Because it's Qiyamul Layl again.
Okay, yeah. Okay, okay, so the question is, so if a person prays Salat al-Tarawih after Salat al-Isha and stays awake, or it gets up at night time, which is the last third of the night, can this person makes the extra prayers, which is the tahajjud, or not? So as you said, see, the Qiyamul Layl generally it is any salah between Salat al-Isha and Salat al-Fajr. That is called Qiyamul Layl. Nowadays people, they call it, the fiqh terminologies is Salat al-Tarawih, which is after Salat al-Isha, when the people, they get together in Ramadan and they pray. And Tahajjud is generally or linguistically after a person sleeps and wakes up and makes Tahajjud. Tahajjud min al-Layli, and that is when you wake up in the last third of the night and you pray. Are you allowed to do that? Generally, it is allowed. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said, Salatul Layli mathna mathna, فَإِذَا خَشِيَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْفَجْرِ فَلْيَرْكَعْ بِوَاحِدَةٍ, which means that there is no limit of the amount of the rak'ah that you pray during the night. So you pray as much as you can. So you pray two rak'at. And when you know that the Fajr is about to start, then you complete or you seal your salah with one rak'ah witr. And from this statement of Aisha radiallahu anha, we learn that there is no limit of salat, the Qiyamul Layl. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as in hadith, the other hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, "Ma zada Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an." Rasulullah did not pray more than 11, or in one narration 30 rak'ah. And herself, she said in the other hadith, Qiyamul Layli or Salatul Layli mathna mathna. So in the Arabic language, mathna mathna means 2 until the end. And the understanding of the Sahaba as well, during the time of Umar ibn Khattab, and after that, Umar ibn Khattab, when he gathered the Muslims in Salat al-Tarawih for 20 rak'ah, and became a sunnah, the sunnah of Umar ibn Khattab, and there was no Sahabi, no companion during that time who made inkar, who went against or criticized the view or the action or the sunnah of Umar ibn Khattab. It was accepted, and they continued from there until nowadays. We in the masajid, they pray 20 rak'at. So that is more than what Rasulullah used to pray, and that is the understanding of the Sahaba. And we know from the action of our Salaf al-Salih, that they used to pray large or big amount of rak'at during the night time. Some of them, it was reported that they used to pray 300, and some of them they pray all night, some of them they pray. So they don't limit their prayers with 13 or 11 rak'ah. However, that is the action for Rasulullah. If you would to do that, then that's the best and that's the better. And the quality, the is better than possibly sometimes the quantity. And when you pray 11 or 30 rak'ah, when it's in a nice qualities rak'at that you pondering and you focusing and you are knowing what you are reading, will be better than you pray possibly maybe 30 40 rak'ah between Taraweeh and between Tahajjud, and they are all light rak'at. However, it is permissible, it is allowed. Now there is one situation. If you pray Taraweeh and you completed your Taraweeh with one witr, with Salatul Witr in there, in my opinion you should not pray after that, because Salatul Witr, it's the last Salah in the night, and if you pray Witr you're not allowed to pray Nafil after that. This is my view. However, if you know that you're going to pray Tahajjud later on, so pray your Taraweeh as much as you can, whether 10 rak'at, more or less, and then you sleep, and then or you stayed awake, and then later on the Tahajjud time, which is the last third of the night, you would like to pray more. That is better as well, and that is the best time, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the Sama'ud Dunya and He says, Hal min mustaghfir, is there anyone who is asking for forgiveness? Hal min sa'il, is there anyone has any mas'ala asking me, begging me, asking me for any mas'ala? Then I'll answer his mas'ala. So imagine that, as Rasulullah said, فَلْتَكُنْ, then you should be amongst those who are present at that time, whether you are in salah, whether you're making ruku' or recitation of the Quran, whether you're making dhikr, and this is the period which is the last part of the night. So the summary of that, you are allowed to pray the more than what you pray in Taraweeh. So you pray Taraweeh and then you pray later on the Tahajjud, and that's fine, as long as you don't end your Taraweeh at the beginning with one witr. If you do that, preferable not to pray after that nafil, because witr is one witr in the night time, and is witr of the daytime, which is the maghrib, and one witr for the nafil that you prayed at night time. Allah knows best. Okay. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, one question. A lot of people I saw, when they read a verse of Quran, at the end they say Sadaqallah Azim. So I don't know, this Sadaqallah Azim is a bid'ah or something the Sahaba done it. If you give some information about this one, Sheikh.
Well, the statement Sadaqallah al-Azim is a true statement. There is no وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا. So there is no one who is more truthful, more the statement that it says that will be more truthful than the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا. So there is no one who will be أصدق من Allah, more صادق than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the statement itself is true. The statement itself is correct. However, to say this statement at the end of your recitation, and you keep saying that all the time, we know that the recitation is ibadah. So when you recite the Quran, it is an act of worship. And we know that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ explained to us that that we start with the ta'awudh by saying A'udhu Billahi Min Shaitan Rajim. In fact, the Rasulullah ﷺ showed us more than one way of saying the ta'awudh. A'udhu Billahi Min Shaitan Rajim, A'udhu Billahi Sami al-Alimi Min Shaitan Rajim, وأعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. So all these are narrations are showed by Rasulullah ﷺ when you start recitation. And when we start the surah from the beginning, we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. However, when we end our recitation, we don't have any one narration or a statement from Rasulullah ﷺ where he says that at the end of the recitation you say Sadaqallahu al-Azim. At the end of your khatim, or at the end of your recitation. So if you keep saying that all the time, I'm afraid that it might be counted as one of the al-bid'ah al-idafiyya. Bid'ah idafiyya, it means that the statement has an asl, there is an asl in there, and that is, which is kind of a dua, kind of a true statement. But it was not the practice of Rasulullah ﷺ. So I prefer not to you to say this all the time. If you want to say it, will be kind of a true statement. You're saying a fact. You're saying a fact maybe once in a while, then it's a fact. You're saying something which is fact. But or maybe you are talking about something and your family members or a friend or someone says to you something and you got wow mashallah, that the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you say sadaqallahu al-azim. Yeah, that's true. Look how what is, I find it in reality this is correct. So you might say it out of just pondering on the situation, and you might say it once or twice maybe after your recitation in a while, but you keep saying that all the time, as I said, I'm afraid might be counted as amongst the al-bid'ah al-idafiyah, because you said that in ibadah. It's not a habit or something to do with the dunya, general things. So this is a part of the ibadah, and the ibadah has to be done and completed and performed in the way how Rasulullah showed us. The ibadah will not be accepted unless if you perform and you present two conditions: al-ikhlas, being sincere in your ibadah, that you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you do it and you perform that ibadah in the way how Rasulullah performed it. These are two conditions to consider ibadah are correct and valid. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa-alaikum wa barakatuh. If you don't mind, because as I said, I have other people who send their questions through the through messages and through the WhatsApp and through Facebook. So can I take one question from here and then I'll come back to you, inshallah?
Inshallah.
Okay, so let me take this question. This question, actually this person asked 3 questions, so I'm to take the first 2 questions first because they're similar. She says, can we use zakah funds to pay for iftar meals? And the other question, second question, said also, can we buy clothes for refugees and asylum seekers in this country? These 2 questions are similar because basically, are we allowed to use the zakah, which is the money, the zakatul mal, the zakah of your cash, or the zakah of your jewelries and your gold and silver, and giving it to the poor in a form of meals or in a form of clothes, as she says in here, because the first question was iftar meals and the other one says that clothes. Well, the general principle in zakah is zakah should be giving from the same jins of al-muzakka anhu. Now you have cattle, you have sheep, you have cows, you have camels. If you look at that, the zakah that for each, the Rasulullah when he put that the zakah in there, the zakah will be giving from the same type that of the wealth that you own and you got. If it was lamb 125, you get one. When you give a sheep, Rasulullah did not say you give money, you give a sheep, and it goes with that. If you have on the farm and you have harvest and you get at the end of the season, you collect your harvest and you give a zakah of that. When you give the zakah of that, also from the same type as well. When you have now your zakah, the zakah is money. If you have money, which is similar to that, the jewelries, which is the gold and silver, then you give cash. For that, you give cash as well. This is the asl which is agreed upon all the scholars. All the scholars agreed on that. However, there are some situations where the ulama, the scholars from the schools, the madhahib, they consider it as an exception. So what is the exception here? Overall, let's say if you are sure the person needs the clothes or needs the food, in that situation that you are allowed to give it in the form of food or in the form of clothes. And the fuqaha did not leave the mas'ala general like that. They gave scenarios for that. So they're saying, for example, the poor person is mad, is majnoon, they has no aql. Then in this case, you don't give money to this person because the money is going to throw it away. But you know he's hungry, then you buy food. You use zakah, let's say 25 pound. You have £1,000, you give it 25 pound. So you go and you buy food, and you make this money for this person, and you buy food for this person. Maybe if you see that person has no clothes, his aura is be seen or this and that, you buy clothes for him. Also, they mention if the Rabbul Bayt, you have a family who are poor and they don't have what to eat, or they don't have much. They are poor or miskeens. In this situation, and the father was someone who's safih. If you give the money, the father is Rabbul Bayt, he is the lord of the house, and everything will be reached to the father. And if you give it to the father is alcoholic, or is addicted to drugs, or a safih, someone doesn't know how to spend the money. You give the money, he goes into spend them in a haram way, and he will not spend on the family. In this situation, you don't give the money to this person, and you can't give the money to the family. So in this case, you give the family, you bring food, and you bring clothes and all what you need, you buy from that money. Possibly maybe you divide that money for first time, second time, and so on, like that. One of the situations that we have it nowadays in our lives now, and especially if you're talking about some countries, I was told that some parts in let's say in India, Pakistan, or Africa somewhere, where you're not going to find shops close to where the village is. And if you give them money, the money for them is like stones in there. So they're not going to benefit much from that. Because for them to travel from their village to the place where they can buy clothes or buy food, it will take them a long time and spend a lot of money. They might spend all that money to get into their destination to buy something, and might be very expensive as well. So in this situation as well, you may buy for them if you are sure that really they need clothes or they need food. Otherwise, give them the money, because the asl, you give them the money and they do with it as they want. That's what Rasulullah used to do, and that is, as we all know, zakah in old days used to be collected by Rasulullah and the people who he used to send them to collect the zakah. Like that used to be during the Khulafa Rashidin. Like that used to be during the states, the Amawi's period, Abbasis and so on. There are places where they collect the zakah. Nowadays, in this country, let's say in our country here, we don't have someone to collect the zakah, so we give our zakah based on our own ijtihad. So we need to be sure that the way how we give it, and you have to give it out on the due day, and has to go into the right people. And this is also, I just need to warn the sister who sent this question. We sometimes intend to do that because we try to be also, some people, they try to be maybe clever by giving zakah and giving the iftari. And so they're saying, I'm going to get the reward. Man aftara sa'iman falahu ajruh. If you make an iftar of a sa'im, you'll get the reward of that sa'im. And at the same time, I'm giving my zakah out. And at the same time, when you are funding one of your colleagues or community members and collecting funds for the Syrians or for the Yemenis or for the refugees and here and there, saying, you know what, let me help them and this and that, and giving them a zakah. So why we don't give zakah in the right places as cash, as money, and at the same time we help these charities by buying them some clothes. Now, alhamdulillah, the shops are open. You can go and collect and buy clothes and buy some food as well, make packages of food and give them that. Give them as from your own sadaqah. So it will be a sadaqah. And a sadaqah is a great. If we think about the reward, and that will make us just think about the reward that you will get. Don't think about you're going to be clever by giving one and you gaining two things by throwing one stone. So try to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that as well. That is very, very important. and Allah knows best. So this is the question. Yes, who was asking earlier? You can go for your question now.
Yes, brother. I think I also put it in the chat in the Zoom, but essentially the question is regarding the Islamic will, the concept of the executor. I wanted to ask the recommendation of the executor. I believe I've read, and I may be wrong, that the executor could be one of the inheritors, for example, your children, or it could be someone external, outside. You know, I don't know, maybe a cousin or family friend. So I just wanted to get your view and recommendation on who can be considered as the executor in your will.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The answer of your question, brother, it can be, as you said, it can be anyone from the family members, and can be from outside as well. And the advice here that the person who's writing the will, try not to make any, try not to leave any mess behind him or her. And what I mean with this, from the experience that we have seen in the some situations, some cases that we dealt with, and they will just one second. They appoint one of the family members, and will be one from the beneficiaries as well, one of those who's going to benefit from that inheritance. And then the family members, they will be doubting, they will be questioning, they'll be making, especially when there will be a decision will be made in there. A decision, let's say, for example, a house was left behind, and there are 3 or 4 or 2 people who's going to be benefiting from that, or 2 houses, and the value of this one is not exact like the value of this one. Then we need to make a decision, and who's going to take this, who's going to take that. It will be sometimes some of the disagreement between the siblings or the beneficiaries in general, all of them. And if it was one of the family members, he might go and make a decision based on his own interest or her own interest, and benefiting one of the other family members. So sometimes it will be better, I'm saying sometimes it will be better, to be someone who's independent from outside, and someone who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like be an imam of the masjid, like the person who is in charge of writing the will. It might be an office, might be like sometimes nowadays they put solicitors, or they put some accountants, or someone who is well known in the community, and it can be that will be better. So then if there's any dispute, it will be dealt with it in an independent way and in a free way, rather than to be from a family members of. But overall it is fine. There's no rule says that you're not allowed, as far as concerned. There's no rule says that you are allowed or you're not allowed. It can be from either ways. Wallahu a'lam. Is that what you want, brother? Yeah.
Yes, brother. That helps, and it leads towards that it may be better to be diplomatic, or in those cases to have external.
Yes.
So they can avoid those. But like you said, you could go either way. And regarding the 2/3, is you need to follow the Sharia way of distribution, and 1/3 you are allowed to choose, right? Is there a recommendation again that should you do all of the amount according to the Sharia, or you should always keep 1/3, or is that just really up to the person?
No, it is absolutely up to the person. Using 1/3 from the wealth and giving it as the deceased wishes, and divide it in the way that he wanted, but with excluding those who are going to benefit from the inheritance. So he or she can give that 1/3 to anyone else outside of those who are going to benefit from the inheritance. It is not must. It is an option, so the person can use that up to, even not even has to be 1/3. It's up to 1/3. Rasulullah when he said to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, الثلث والثلث كثير, and then from that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, it was narrated, and also it was reported Abdullah bin Abbas, they went to less than that. So some of them, they went even to a quarter, not even 1/3. So I'm not 100% now sure whether Abdullah bin Abbas or Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the one who went to quarter, but both of them, they went into their views, they went to less than 1/3 to be giving. That's what their recommendation, because they benefited that, or they said that because Rasulullah said وَثُلُثُ كَثِير, because he said and a thuluth is even a lot, still a lot. So they recommended to go less than that if you want to use that 1/3, but not must. You can leave all of that, but of course it is better for the deceased. If we think about a person when he or she dies, there is nothing will be there except the sadaqah jariyah, except the pious, righteous person, that a child that you leave behind, and these are the things that are going to benefit the person. So it's better for the deceased from 1/3. Especially the ulama said istihbab is recommended if you have a lot of wealth. If you have a lot of wealth, it is strongly recommended, it's a mustahab, that to write 1/3 and to give it as a sadaqah jariyah, as a sadaqah in the masjid, or talib al-ilm, or wells, or anything that will benefit the ummah. However, if the person has not that much money, someone, let's say, just an example, the total amount of the inheritance might come to 10,000, less, more, that's not much, and no house, nothing else, then the ulama, they did not recommend for the person who has less wealth to give 1/3, because as Rasulullah recommended to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, لأن تذر ذريتك عالة. So don't leave your dhurriya, your family, your children, who's going to leave them behind you. Ala, that means that they are in need. So leave the money for them. It's better for them to inherit it. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, I have another question from, I'll go this question, and then if anyone wants to ask a question, will be better, the computer a little bit far from me, it will be better to say your question then rather than to write it in the message. I will see the message later on. So this question, I received this question as well. Again, the lady says, does the zakah have to be giving to a Muslim or any needy? Okay, so again, to do with the zakah, will the zakah be allowed to be given to the Muslim or to the any needy, regardless to the religion of that person, regardless to the gender as well, male, female, Muslim, non-Muslims? The asl in all of this, the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah At-Tawbah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. These are the 8 categories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them. If you see the beginning of the ayah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. Al-Fuqara wal-Masakin. In the tafsir, and for any simple person, if you go to tafsir Ibn Kathir, you'll find tafsir Ikrima Mawla ibn Abbas, rahimahullah. He said, Al-Fuqara wal-Masakin, not Fuqara al-Muslimin, Fuqara wa-Masakin Ahlul Kitab. Meaning in here, so he included the Fuqara and the Masakin of the disbelievers, to non-Muslims. This is the view of Ikrima, Mawla ibn Abbas, the students of Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It was also reported that Umar ibn Khattab, during his Khilafah, in a number of stories, that the Ahlul Kitab or Ahlul Dhimma used to live under the protection of the Muslims. They used to pay the jizya, and one of them, he said to Umar ibn Khattab, that they took jizya from us and we have nothing really to spend upon ourselves. So Umar ibn Khattab, he decided to give him from malu sadaqah. And in another narration as well, Umar ibn Khattab gave to Ahlul Kitab from the wealth of as-sadaqat, from mal al-sadaqat. So because of this, they attributed this view as well to Umar ibn Khattab. But Allah knows best. Allah knows that the understanding of the story of Umar ibn Khattab is, it might be relating to the sadaqah, not a sadaqah, the compulsory sadaqah, which is the zakah. It might be the word sadaqah, if it's used and said, it can be referring to the voluntary one, to the nafil one, which is some donation people are giving it, sadaqah, normal sadaqah, like nowadays that we say it, charity. And it goes also the word sadaqah, which is the compulsory sadaqah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the ayah, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَى. Okay, so the view of Umar ibn Khattab, it might be understood in that way, wallahu alam. Because of that, why I'm saying all of this? Because Ibn al-Mundhir, and it was mentioned, quoted by a number of scholars like Ibn Qudam and others, that they quoted ijma' of the ulama, the ijma' of the scholars of the madhahib, that the sadaqah, al-fard, al-wajiba, the zakah, has to be given to a Muslim. The sadaqat has to be given to a Muslim, the sadaqah al-fard, not the sadaqah, the nafil one. So let me use now the word zakah, so not to confuse you. So zakah has to be given to the Muslims. And this was quoted by Ibn Mundhir in his book Al-Ijma'. However, we've seen earlier, as I said, the view of Ikrimah Mawla Ibn Abbas, and we also, it was attributed that the view of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anha. Because of that, we have a view in the Hanafi school, and that is the view of Zufar ibn al-Hudayl, the students of Imam Abi Hanifa, rahimahullah. He says it is allowed to be given to the non-Muslim, the zakah. However, Allahu A'lam, this view is not